Nathan Sterling had everything a man could dream of: vast wealth built through his razor-sharp investments, a luxurious penthouse in Manhattan, and a poised, elegant wife who embodied perfection. But beneath the dazzling image he projected to the world, a storm of secrets brewed, ones that no amount of money could erase. His first marriage to Evelyn had ended in a very public and scandalous breakup, splashed across the headlines of every business and gossip column. He had made it clear there was no going back. Now, standing under the glittering chandeliers of an elite charity gala, Nathan was determined to prove that chapter of his life was long behind him. With one deliberate, highly publicized kiss shared with his new wife, he sent a message, not just to the press, but to Evelyn herself. What he didn't realize was that this single act would ignite a chain of events that could either reinforce the empire he had built or bring it all crashing down. Nathan had not been born into wealth. He grew up in a quiet neighborhood just outside Chicago, where ambition was the only way out. While his classmates spent their afternoons on the basketball court or hanging out at the local diner, he was glued to an outdated computer, teaching himself to code. In college, he launched a startup, a digital marketing tool that he later sold for his first seven-figure deal before even collecting his diploma. That moment changed everything. From then on, his life seemed unstoppable. Every risk he took paid off. Every venture he touched turned to gold. By his mid-20s, Nathan had built a substantial fortune. He owned a stylish penthouse in Boston, drove a sleek Porsche, and exuded a quiet confidence that made people take notice. Industry titans, including legendary investor Richard Langford, recognized his potential. Invitations to exclusive conferences and private networking dinners followed. At one such gathering in New York, he found himself seated mere feet away from Warren Buffett, a moment that solidified his place among the rising stars of the tech world. By the time he turned 30, Nathan had successfully crafted an image as a self-made billionaire, though his net worth still hovered just below the nine-figure mark. It was during a prestigious technology summit in San Francisco that he first met Evelyn. She was a junior public relations associate tasked with coordinating the event's high-profile guests. Unlike the eager social climbers Nathan was accustomed to, Evelyn carried herself with quiet strength. Her intelligence and determination captivated him more than he expected. What started as a casual conversation turned into long nights of phone calls across time zones. Despite coming from vastly different worlds, she was raised in a working-class home in Philadelphia. They shared an unshakable drive for success. Within a year, they were married in an extravagant ceremony that became the talk of Silicon Valley. For a time, they were unstoppable. Evelyn's natural talent for public relations elevated Nathan's brand, while his relentless ambition pulled them into the highest social circles. They attended lavish galas hosted by Langford and Associates, rubbed shoulders with powerhouses like Elon Musk and Sheryl Sandberg, and immersed themselves in a life of luxury. Evelyn adapted seamlessly, stepping into the role of the perfect hostess, learning to navigate a world where image was everything. But beneath the shimmering facade, fractures had already begun to form. And soon, their perfect life would come undone. At first, every event they attended together only reinforced the image of Nathan and Evelyn Sterling as an unstoppable force, a power couple destined for greatness. But over time, beneath the dazzling appearances and carefully curated social presence, the cracks in their marriage began to form. Nathan's hunger for success was insatiable. Every deal had to be bigger than the last. Every acquisition had to outshine the one before it. His empire was constantly expanding, and with it, his ambitions grew. But Evelyn, who had once thrived in the spotlight alongside him, slowly began to feel like a mere accessory to his success, rather than an equal partner. The romantic dinners they used to cherish were replaced by late-night arguments. The laughter that once filled their home gave way to tense silences and heated accusations about emotional neglect. Despite their flawless outward image, the fractures between them deepened until they could no longer be ignored. What had once been a story of triumph and partnership had become a cautionary tale, one that proved that a marriage built on power, fame, and wealth could just as easily be crushed beneath the same weight that once lifted it to greatness. Nathan made attempts to salvage their relationship, but in the end, His relentless pursuit of more deals, more prestige, more control, clashed too sharply with Evelyn's growing resentment. Their split was swift and catastrophic. Before either of them could fully process it, the divorce papers were signed. The news exploded across headlines, dissected in business columns and gossip blogs alike. And just like that, the legend of Nathan and Evelyn Sterling came to an abrupt end. But for Nathan, the story wasn't over. He refused to let personal heartbreak overshadow his empire. With his characteristic determination, he weathered the scandal, emerging from it not as a man who had lost something, but as one who was already moving toward his next conquest. What he didn't know was that the biggest twist in his personal life was yet to come. The very public divorce took a far greater toll on Evelyn than she had anticipated. In the beginning, she kept her head high, telling herself, and anyone who asked, that she was relieved to be free from a marriage that had become suffocating. But no matter how much she reassured herself, the emptiness that followed was undeniable. She left behind the opulent San Francisco penthouse, the exclusive parties, and the constant intrusion of paparazzi documenting her every move. Instead, she withdrew to a modest apartment in Philadelphia, her hometown, where the city's quiet hum felt worlds apart from the blinding glow of Nathan's universe. For years, Evelyn had been accustomed to life at the top, where her name was always attached to his, introduced at events as Mrs. Nathan Sterling, or the rising PR star married to the unstoppable entrepreneur. During their marriage, she had dined with elite philanthropists, mingled with real estate moguls, and even traveled internationally, helping Nathan woo investors. But the moment she walked out of their mansion with nothing but a suitcase and an uncertain heart, that identity ceased to exist. She tried to restart her PR career, keeping her married name, Evelyn Sterling, at first, hoping it would open doors. But she quickly realized that the same name that once granted her instant access now worked against her. Clients who had once eagerly sought her expertise now hesitated. Some feared that hiring Nathan Sterling's ex-wife would invite unnecessary drama. Others simply stopped returning her calls, assuming she no longer had the same level of influence. Alone in Philadelphia, Evelyn spent her days sending out job applications and trying to ignore the whirlwind of media speculation that surrounded her. Tabloids crafted their own versions of the story. Some claimed she had been unfaithful. Others painted Nathan as the heartless husband who cast her aside. The truth was far less dramatic. Their marriage had eroded slowly, victims of a deeper incompatibility. But the truth didn't sell as well as scandal. Soon, Evelyn's face was splashed across gossip columns with sensationalized headlines like "Bitter Ex-Wife Plots Revenge" and "Evelyn Sterling's Secret, Did She Push Nathan Away?" The accusations, absurd as they were, took a toll on her. The more she read, the more unbearable it became. So eventually she stopped looking. Evelyn did everything she could to escape the noise. She blocked social media, avoided online tabloids, and cut off any source that might remind her of Nathan Sterling's world. But at night, in the quiet of her small Philadelphia apartment, she found herself scrolling through old text messages, faint echoes of a time when they were young, ambitious, and full of hope. It was ironic, really. A woman who once orchestrated massive PR campaigns, shaping public perception on a grand scale, now lived in near obscurity. The silence felt foreign. But Evelyn had never been one to break easily. She told herself that her survival depended on rediscovering who she was, who she had always been, outside of Nathan's shadow. She started picking up freelance PR work, helping small businesses in Philadelphia craft their branding strategies. She also began volunteering at a local women's shelter, offering guidance on communication and career building. It wasn't glamorous. There were no exclusive gala invitations or high-stakes networking events, but for the first time in years, she felt something real. Connection, purpose. Even so, the nights were the hardest. No matter how much she rebuilt, she couldn't shake the ache of longing. Not necessarily for Nathan himself, but for the life they had built together. She didn't know if she missed him, or simply the certainty of belonging to something bigger than herself. One thing was clear. She was changing, and the journey to her new self had only just begun. While Evelyn struggled to reclaim her footing, Nathan seemed to move on effortlessly. At least that's how it looked from the outside. He relocated his headquarters from San Francisco to Manhattan, drawn to the city's financial heartbeat and endless opportunities for high-stakes deals. In less than a year, he executed a string of major tech acquisitions, expanding his empire and cementing his presence in business headlines. His divorce had barely been finalized, yet his name was still everywhere. Not as a man who had lost something, but as one who was still winning. It was during this period that Catherine Langford entered the picture. They met at an exclusive charity auction in Manhattan, an event hosted by the Langford Foundation to raise scholarships for underprivileged students pursuing STEM degrees. Catherine was there representing her family's philanthropic trust, a prestigious initiative that provided microloans to small business owners worldwide. Fluent in 4 languages, with a sharp financial mind and a quiet confidence, she was unlike any woman Nathan had encountered since his divorce. Over an intimate dinner, they bonded over their shared interests: global entrepreneurship, economic development, and even classical art. Catherine's father, Robert Langford, was a retired hedge fund titan known for his philanthropic influence across New York. Catherine herself had studied at Yale, spent time in Kenya developing microfinance programs, and returned to Manhattan with a fierce determination to carve out her own legacy. Their romance unfolded at breakneck speed. Within months, tabloids were filled with stories of Nathan and Catherine's whirlwind relationship. Paparazzi photos captured them at exclusive Monaco galas, at business summits in London, or strolling hand in hand through Central Park. The media dubbed them the new power couple, effectively erasing Evelyn's name from Nathan's public narrative. Even those in Nathan's inner circle, including major investors like Mark Cuban, were surprised at how quickly he had moved on. But on the surface, it was a perfect match. Nathan's relentless ambition paired seamlessly with Catherine's philanthropic drive. Where he negotiated multi-million-dollar acquisitions, she championed charitable partnerships that enhanced Sterling Enterprises' public image. They weren't just a couple. They were a brand, a force of influence that people envied. Behind closed doors, however, Nathan was learning something new. Catherine had her own brand of ambition. She wasn't interested in being just someone's wife. She had no intention of fading into the background. She had her own goals, her own power to wield, and she expected to be an equal in every sense of the word. Their synergy was undeniable. But in a world where ambition ruled above all else, synergy alone was never enough. Together, Nathan and Catherine Sterling crafted a new kind of empire, one that blended power and prestige with a touch of philanthropy. Their relationship, captured in glamorous photographs and glowing media headlines, appeared seamless. And yet, in the quiet hours of the night, a whisper of doubt lingered in Nathan's mind. Despite the undeniable chemistry and their shared ambitions, there were moments when his thoughts drifted back. He would lie awake, remembering Evelyn's laughter, the private jokes they once shared, the familiarity of a life that was now gone. He told himself that love should always look forward, never backward, that dwelling on the past was futile. And yet, something unsettled him, a faint dissonance he couldn't quite shake. Catherine, however, remained completely unaffected by Nathan's past. She believed in fresh starts, in building something new without the weight of old relationships dragging behind. To her, Evelyn was nothing more than a closed chapter, someone who had shaped Nathan's journey but held no influence over their future. Determined to silence the echoes of doubt, Nathan made a decisive move. Under the soft glow of the Bethesda fountain in Central Park, he knelt before Catherine, an elegant ring in hand. Paparazzi swarmed, cameras flashing as they captured the moment in real time. The tabloids erupted in approval. A new era for Nathan Sterling had begun. With Catherine by his side, he was stepping boldly into a future he believed would finally free him from the ghosts of his past. Evelyn first learned of Nathan's engagement the way she had tried so hard to avoid, through a gossip blog. A friend texted her, warning her before she saw it for herself. But curiosity won out, and before she could stop herself, she was staring at the photograph. Nathan, on one knee, Catherine, radiant with joy. His eyes brimming with a tenderness Evelyn once believed had belonged only to her. The news hit her like a stone sinking in deep water. It didn't matter how much time had passed, how much she had told herself they were over. Seeing him so publicly devoted to another woman stirred up a whirlwind of emotions: regret, resentment, sadness. She reminded herself that she had no right to feel this way. After all, they had chosen to part ways, but heartbreak never did abide by logic. She shut out the gossip sites after that, throwing herself deeper into her work. She took on more PR clients, buried herself in volunteer projects at the women's shelter. But the rumors had a way of reaching her, no matter how much she tried to ignore them. Then an unexpected opportunity arrived. A business consultant, Amanda Langford from Langford & Langford Associates, reached out. Amanda had once admired Evelyn's PR work at a gala in San Francisco and now needed an expert to help organize a major women's entrepreneurship summit in New York. It was exactly the kind of career-defining project Evelyn had been waiting for. And ironically, it would take her straight into Nathan's city. Hesitant, but driven by the need to reclaim her professional standing, she accepted the contract. Boarding a plane to Manhattan, she felt something she hadn't in a long time: determination. For too long, she had let heartbreak define her. Now, it was time to prove she could thrive on her own terms, even in the city that once belonged to Nathan's world. The summit was nothing short of spectacular. Hosted in a high-end midtown hotel, it buzzed with some of the most influential figures in business, philanthropy, and media. Evelyn's PR expertise clicked into place effortlessly. She secured press coverage, coordinated high-profile guest speakers, and crafted a compelling narrative around the event's mission. By the second day, the conference was a roaring success. That evening, a lavish reception was held in the hotel's grand ballroom. The space was a vision of luxury: towering ceilings, gleaming marble floors, chandeliers casting a golden glow. Evelyn moved through the crowd, ensuring everything ran smoothly, her confidence finally restored. Then a sudden stir near the entrance caught her attention. A hush fell over the room, replaced by the low murmur of voices. Someone important had arrived. Her pulse quickened, and when she turned toward the commotion, she saw him: Nathan Sterling. The grand ballroom buzzed with conversation, the chandeliers casting a golden glow over the elegantly dressed attendees. And then, in a perfectly tailored navy suit, Nathan Sterling walked in, arm in arm with Catherine Langford. Evelyn's breath hitched. They were guests of Amanda Langford, who had invited Nathan, believing he might be interested in funding one of the entrepreneurs presenting at the summit. The sight of him after all this time sent a wave of emotions crashing over Evelyn: nerves, longing, and something dangerously close to regret. Across the room, Nathan's gaze swept over the crowd. When his eyes finally landed on her, time seemed to slow. Evelyn considered slipping away, avoiding the inevitable. But she had a job to do. She was here as a professional, and if fate had decided to place them in the same space once again, she would face it head-on. Whether this moment was meant to bring closure or reopen old wounds remained to be seen. The energy in the ballroom shifted the moment Nathan entered. People whispered behind their champagne flutes. Some marveled at the presence of the tech mogul known for his billion-dollar deals. Others admired Catherine's philanthropic reputation with the Langford Initiative. But most simply watched, captivated by the power couple before them. Evelyn lingered near a display table, arranging promotional materials for the summit's keynote speakers, pretending to be absorbed in her work. But her hands were trembling slightly. She had played out 100 different ways this reunion could happen, but none had prepared her for the reality of standing just 20 feet away from him, listening to the familiar cadence of his voice as he chatted with event organizers. Then, Catherine noticed her first. With effortless grace, she gave Evelyn a small wave, her expression warm but uncertain. She clearly knew who Evelyn was. Evelyn forced a polite nod in response, her stomach twisting as an image flashed through her mind. Nathan, kneeling in Central Park, offering Catherine a ring, his expression full of devotion. And then Nathan himself approached. "Evelyn?" he said quietly, exhaling as if bracing himself. His usual confidence was tinged with hesitation. She managed a faint smile, uncertain if it conveyed relief or sorrow. "I didn't realize you were involved in this summit," Nathan continued. Amanda invited me. Potential investment opportunity." Evelyn's response was carefully measured. "I'm handling PR. Amanda needed someone with experience in tech events, and well, here I am." The words felt so formal, so distant, as if they were strangers meeting for the first time, instead of former lovers whose lives had once been deeply intertwined. Between them hung the weight of everything unspoken, the passion, the fights, the wedding vows, and the divorce papers that had severed it all. Then, Catherine joined them. With effortless elegance, she slid her arm through Nathan's, a subtle but unmistakable gesture of intimacy. "I've heard so much about your work, Evelyn," Catherine said warmly. "Thank you for everything you've done to make tonight such a success." There was no malice in her voice, only kindness, mixed with curiosity. Evelyn forced another polite smile. "I'm happy to help, and congratulations on your engagement." The words tasted bitter, but she pushed them out with practiced composure. Catherine's face softened with a gentle blush. "Thank you. We're both really excited. We haven't set a date yet, but we're thinking next summer." "Wonderful," Evelyn replied, her throat tightening. Nathan, meanwhile, stood unnaturally still. His eyes flickered between them, something unreadable in his expression. Guilt? Anxiety? Pity? Maybe all three. The moment stretched between them, precarious, charged. And just when it felt like the tension might snap, Amanda Langford appeared, her presence as commanding as ever. "Ah, Nathan, Catherine, Evelyn, fantastic, I see you've met," she said, her voice full of warmth and authority. "Nathan, I have some incredible entrepreneurs I'd love to introduce you to." And just like that, the moment passed. But Evelyn knew. This was far from over. Just like that, their first face-to-face encounter in years ended as abruptly as it had begun, without confrontation, without closure. As Nathan was swept away toward the other side of the ballroom, Evelyn let out a slow, shaky breath. She had held herself together. She hadn't crumbled. That was something to be proud of. And yet, beneath the surface, a storm of emotions churned. Tonight had confirmed what she had been trying to deny. Her past was not as distant as she had hoped. And maybe, just maybe, facing it was the only way forward. In the days following the summit, whispers spread across social media and business circles. Was Nathan Sterling still in love with his ex-wife? Speculation ignited from those who had witnessed their tense but polite reunion. Some claimed they had caught a flicker of something in Nathan's expression whenever his gaze lingered on Evelyn. Something unreadable, something unresolved. Others swore Evelyn had looked haunted, as though seeing him again had awakened emotions she had long buried. The gossip columns devoured the story, crafting dramatic headlines about a potential love triangle brewing beneath Manhattan's skyline. Evelyn dismissed the rumors as nothing more than sensationalized nonsense. She had no interest in rekindling anything with Nathan, nor did she aspire to be dragged back into the whirlwind of his multi-million-dollar world. But despite her best efforts to ignore it, people kept forwarding her articles. Sterling's ex and new fiancé in the same room, is there trouble in paradise? She responded politely to concerned friends, refusing to engage. Yet each headline still stung, a reminder that to the world she was still defined by her past with him. Nathan, on the other hand, found the rumors far more unsettling. For months, he had carefully constructed the image of a man completely over his past, someone who had moved on with clarity and purpose. To suddenly be linked to Evelyn again, even just in speculation, was an unwelcome complication. Especially with Catherine, who valued honesty and forward momentum above all else. Though he didn't doubt his decision to move forward with Catherine, the mere mention of an unresolved emotional bond unsettled him. It forced him to acknowledge memories of Evelyn that he had tried to bury. Late one night, in the dim glow of their sleek Manhattan penthouse, Catherine finally confronted him. "I read the articles," she said, her voice even, lacking accusation. "Do I need to be worried?" Nathan met her gaze. "No," he assured her, his tone steady. "Evelyn and I have closure, even if we never had that final heart-to-heart. We drifted apart a long time ago. The rumors only exist because we were high-profile when we split." As he spoke, he reached up, brushing his fingers tenderly across her cheek. "Catherine, you're my present and my future." That was enough for her. She believed him. But as Nathan lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, he realized something. He wasn't lying to her. He was over Evelyn. But the way their marriage had ended, so abruptly, consumed by lawyers and PR teams, had left a lingering emptiness. Maybe for his own peace of mind, he needed to finally have that conversation, if only to ensure that chapter of his life was truly closed. Meanwhile, Evelyn found herself at a crossroads. Her work at the summit had impressed Amanda Langford, who eagerly offered her a steady stream of freelance PR projects in New York. A relocation from Philadelphia now felt not only possible, but inevitable. The idea of living in the same city as Nathan and Catherine was unsettling. But Evelyn refused to let fear of awkward run-ins dictate her decisions. She was rebuilding on her own terms. Then, one afternoon, as she packed for a business trip, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Evelyn, it's Nathan. Could we meet? There are things I'd like to clear up. No pressure. Just let me know." Her heart pounded. She had told herself she was ready to move forward. She had promised herself she was done looking back. And yet, maybe a final conversation was exactly what she needed to truly let go. Slowly, she typed a response. "I'll hear you out, but let's be clear, this isn't about the past." She hesitated only for a second before hitting send. Whatever happened next, she would face it head-on. Evelyn hesitated for only a moment before pressing send. Let's keep it neutral. She wasn't sure if she was searching for closure or walking straight into chaos. She chose the meeting place carefully. A small cafe on Manhattan's Upper West Side called Sycamore & Co. With its warm lighting, shelves stacked with books, and the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee, it was worlds apart from the sleek offices and extravagant galas that defined Nathan's usual settings. Maybe, in this quieter space, they could finally speak without the weight of their past looming over them. When she arrived, Nathan was already there. Dressed in an elegant navy blazer, he stood near a corner table, pacing slightly, hands in his pockets. His eyes lit up the moment he saw her. Evelyn took a slow breath, steadying herself. "Stay calm. You're here for closure, nothing more." They exchanged a stiff but polite greeting before settling into their seats. Once they had both ordered cappuccinos, Evelyn decided to cut to the chase. "So," she said, keeping her tone businesslike, "you wanted to talk. Now's your chance." Nathan exhaled as if steadying himself. "Evelyn, I just want you to know, I never meant to hurt you the way I did." His voice was low, sincere. "I realize now that my ambition consumed everything, including us. And you got lost in the middle of it all." Evelyn's gaze flickered to the delicate swirl of foam on her cappuccino. "I appreciate the apology," she said finally, her voice quiet but firm. "But we can't change the past. We're living different lives now." Nathan nodded, fingers tapping lightly against the ceramic of his coffee cup. "I also want to clear something up. The tabloids, what they're saying about me being torn between you and Catherine, it's not real. I love Catherine and we're getting married. I don't want any misunderstandings about that." A sharp, unexpected pang tightened in Evelyn's chest. She had no illusions about reconciliation, no secret hope that he would take back everything and start over. And yet, hearing him say it so plainly, so definitively, stirred something inside her. Regret, nostalgia, maybe even the smallest sting of jealousy. She inhaled slowly, determined to keep her composure. "I'm not looking to interfere in your life, Nathan," she said evenly. "My priority is moving forward. If anything, I want to do that without these rumors following me around." Nathan studied her, as if searching for something in her expression. "Then maybe," he suggested, "we should show people there's no bad blood between us, that we've moved on, and there's nothing dramatic left to speculate about." Evelyn arched a skeptical eyebrow. "And how do you propose we do that?" He hesitated for just a moment, then said carefully, "Catherine and I are hosting a benefit gala for the Langford Initiative next month. Maybe you could come as a guest, just for one night. Publicly, it would put all the rumors to rest. People would see there's no tension, no lingering drama." Evelyn blinked in surprise. The idea of stepping into a glittering event hosted by Nathan and his fiancée felt like willingly walking into the lion's den. She could already picture the flashing cameras, the murmured whispers. "I'm not sure that's a good idea," she said slowly, her voice tightening. Nathan leaned forward slightly, sincerity written across his face. "I know it's a lot to ask, but think about it. If we appear amicable in public, even for just one evening, it puts all of this to rest. You show you're not tied to the past, and I show that I respect the life we had while moving forward with my own." Evelyn studied him, weighing his words. A part of her recoiled at the thought of stepping back into his world. But another part of her, the part that was tired of being haunted by headlines and whispers, wondered if this could be the final step in truly closing that chapter of her life. Carefully, she replied, "Let me think about it." They finished their cappuccinos, exchanged polite goodbyes, and parted ways. As Evelyn walked away, she felt something shift within her, like a page turning in a book she had once thought was closed. Whether she would attend that gala, she didn't yet know. But for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was the one writing her own next chapter. 1 month later, Evelyn stood in front of her bedroom mirror, adjusting the sleek gown she had chosen for the night ahead. She had made her decision, and there was no turning back. Evelyn Sterling adjusted the emerald green gown that draped elegantly over her frame, the silk catching the soft glow of her bedroom lights. After much deliberation, she had decided to accept Nathan's invitation to the Langford Initiative Benefit Gala. Maybe part of it was pride, proving to herself that she could step back into the world of Manhattan's elite without being overshadowed by her ex-husband. Or maybe it was the desire for finality, the closure Nathan had spoken of. Either way, she had made her choice, and tonight she would face whatever came with her head held high. The gala was held at the Langford Estate, a sprawling mansion on Long Island. Twinkling lights draped over meticulously trimmed hedges, and a grand red carpet lined the entrance. Luxury cars rolled up one after another, dropping off Manhattan's elite, philanthropists, business moguls, and a handful of celebrities. Among the attendees were powerful figures like John Langford of Langford and Langford Associates and renowned tech innovators. Evelyn arrived alone, refusing to hide behind an escort or a date. As she stepped out of the taxi, she was instantly met with the blinding flashes of paparazzi cameras. Nathan Sterling's ex-wife is here. She could hear the whispers ripple through the crowd. Ignoring the murmurs, she straightened her posture, offered a poised, polite smile, and strode inside, her heels clicking against the estate's marble foyer. The soft strains of classical music filled the air as waiters moved gracefully through the hall with trays of champagne. At the center of it all stood Catherine Langford, the epitome of grace, personally greeting guests and championing the charitable causes of the night. Nathan was nearby, effortlessly working the crowd, shaking hands with investors, making introductions. And then Evelyn entered. A subtle shift in the room's energy was palpable, as if everyone silently wondered how this moment would unfold. A delicate dance. Catherine was the first to approach. "I'm so glad you could make it," she said, her tone warm but laced with tension. Evelyn nodded, summoning every ounce of poise. "Thank you for inviting me. The venue is stunning." She could feel eyes on her, curious, expectant, but she remained composed. From the corner of her vision, she noticed Nathan inching closer, likely ensuring that everything remained civil. Before another word could be exchanged, a reporter from a major tabloid seized the opportunity, stepping forward with a microphone. "Miss Sterling," the journalist began, voice sharp with anticipation. "Any comment on your attendance tonight? Does this signal a rekindling with Nathan, or are you here to finally bury the hatchet?" Evelyn barely had a second to react before Catherine, ever poised, stepped in. "Evelyn is here as our honored guest and friend, supporting the Langford Initiative," she said smoothly. "Any personal questions can be directed to our PR team." The reporter hesitated, momentarily thrown off by the firm yet polite response, before slinking away in search of easier prey. Evelyn stole a glance at Nathan. His expression held a quiet gratitude. Relief, even. For a while, the night carried on without issue. Evelyn mingled with familiar faces, exchanged pleasantries, and even found herself discussing PR strategies with Catherine. She had expected the night to feel suffocating, but surprisingly, it didn't. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she belonged, not as Nathan Sterling's ex-wife, but as herself. And then, it happened. A fresh wave of gossip journalists arrived, and one particularly brash paparazzo wasted no time stirring the pot. From across the ballroom, a loud voice cut through the chatter. "Hey Nathan, are you reconciling with your ex tonight or just showing off your new fiancée?" The question froze the air. Nathan's jaw tightened. And then, without hesitation, he crossed the space to Catherine. In front of everyone, with cameras flashing, with every eye in the room locked on them, Nathan took Catherine in his arms and kissed her. It wasn't just a polite, affectionate kiss. It was deliberate, passionate, a statement, a declaration. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd, followed by scattered applause. The moment was captured in real time, a scene that would undoubtedly make the front page of every tabloid the next morning. And Evelyn? She stood frozen, watching the man she had once loved seal his future with another woman. Her stomach twisted, a storm of emotions churning inside her: humiliation, heartbreak, and yet an unexpected sense of relief. Because if she had come here for closure, this moment had certainly delivered it. Nathan Sterling was no longer hers, and she no longer belonged to that world. Whatever lingering illusions Evelyn had clung to were shattered in a single public moment. By the time she left the gala, the photographs of Nathan's kiss with Catherine had already begun circulating online. Within hours, tabloids were dubbing it the kiss that ended all rumors, praising Nathan for publicly affirming his devotion to his fiancée. Some framed it as a triumphant display of love. Others milked the drama, highlighting Catherine's radiant smile against the backdrop of Evelyn's composed, unreadable expression. On the ride back to her Manhattan hotel, Evelyn let the moment replay in her mind, every camera flash burning the scene into her memory. Part of her felt stunned by how theatrical it had been, how deliberately Nathan had put an end to any speculation with one bold, exaggerated gesture. But another part of her knew this was the closure she had been searching for. Harsh? Maybe. Final? Absolutely. The next morning, her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Friends checked in with cautious concern. Acquaintances forwarded article after article. One call was from Harriet Chang, a PR colleague from Philadelphia. Her voice bristled with anger. "That was beyond tacky," Harriet fumed. "He did that on purpose, to push you away, to humiliate you in front of everyone." But Evelyn refused to let herself be consumed by bitterness. "It's done," she said simply. "Let him have his moment. I have my own life to live." And she meant it. Meanwhile, Nathan was caught in a different kind of whirlwind. His inbox overflowed with messages from acquaintances, congratulating him on his brilliant PR move. Investors and business contacts saw it as a strategic way to silence any lingering doubts about his devotion to Catherine. And yet, in the quiet of his penthouse, an unexpected hollowness settled over him. He had done exactly what he set out to do. Publicly, unmistakably, he had solidified his new life. So why did it feel so empty? At first, Catherine was thrilled. The media had painted them as unshakable, and she teasingly called him her knight in shining armor. But it didn't take long for her to sense his unease. Late that night, as they sat by the floor-to-ceiling windows of their penthouse, the city stretching out in twinkling lights beneath them, she turned to him. "What's bothering you?" she asked softly. "We did the right thing, yes?" Nathan studied her face, then finally nodded. "Yes, we did." But after a pause, he admitted, I hate that it might have hurt Evelyn more than she deserved." He stared into the skyline. "But she's strong. She'll move on." Catherine reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "You two had closure a long time ago, Nathan. Don't let guilt overshadow what we have." She kissed his cheek and he closed his eyes, willing himself to let her words sink in. For Evelyn, the real turning point came the next day, when she accepted a major PR contract to help organize a high-profile charity event in Chicago. Leaving Manhattan, at least for a while, maybe even permanently, felt like the right choice. Nathan had his life, his fiancée. The tabloids sang praises about their unshakable bond. Evelyn, however, chose to move forward in a way that was truly her own, no longer tethered to a past that no longer belonged to her. She arrived in Chicago on a crisp spring morning, stepping out of the taxi as a fresh breeze from Lake Michigan tugged at her hair. Towering skyscrapers loomed overhead, the city humming with a fast-paced energy that resonated in her bones. It felt like a new beginning. The Anderson Foundation, a prestigious nonprofit supporting female entrepreneurs across the Midwest, had contracted her for a large-scale event. It was exactly the kind of work she loved: impactful, meaningful, and entirely separate from anything tied to Nathan Sterling. As she took in the city's energy, she allowed herself to breathe in the possibilities ahead. Her story wasn't over. It was just beginning. Janice Anderson, the director of the Anderson Foundation, saw something in Evelyn Sterling that others had often overlooked: tenacity, intelligence, and a sharp instinct for PR strategy. She admired Evelyn's ability to thrive under pressure and granted her full creative freedom to shape the foundation's largest fundraising gala to date. Despite the lingering sting of what had happened in New York, Evelyn threw herself into the project with relentless dedication. She spent long hours drafting press releases, securing media sponsors, and designing an event theme that embodied female empowerment. She built a team from the ground up, hiring savvy PR interns, collaborating with mentors, and forming strategic partnerships with some of Chicago's most influential figures. Though her mind occasionally drifted back to the image of Nathan and Catherine's very public kiss, she refused to let it slow her down. A new city, a new project, a renewed sense of purpose. This time, she was moving forward on her own terms. As the weeks passed, Evelyn's network in Chicago expanded. She worked closely with philanthropic powerhouses like Greta Winslow, an investment guru known for championing female-led startups. She even caught the attention of major real estate developers intrigued by her marketing expertise. Before long, whispers began circulating in the city's social circles. Nathan Sterling's ex-wife is killing it in Chicago. She's unstoppable. Ironically, the farther she distanced herself from Nathan, both geographically and emotionally, the more her own professional identity flourished. For the first time in years, she wasn't being defined by her past. She was being recognized for her talent, her intelligence, and her ability to orchestrate remarkable events. Soon, she was invited to speak on panels about PR strategy and personal branding. Ironically, the very skills she had once used to help build Nathan's empire. Outside of work, Evelyn embraced the city in a way she never had before. She spent evenings at smoky downtown jazz clubs, letting the music wash over her. She strolled through the Art Institute of Chicago, losing herself in world-class paintings. She jogged along the Lakeshore Trail, inhaling the crisp morning air, reveling in the simplicity of movement and breath. These small moments, ones that had nothing to do with power, prestige, or her past, reminded her that life could be fulfilling without being under the relentless glare of the spotlight. Her personal life also began to take shape. She formed close friendships with her Chicago colleagues, including Daniel, a charming assistant with a deep love for architecture. They bonded over deep dish pizza, laughed about the city's infamous weather, and explored hidden pockets of Chicago's history together. Occasionally, men expressed interest in her romantically, but Evelyn was cautious. She had spent too much time losing herself in someone else's world. This time, she needed to stand firmly on her own before letting anyone else in. As the Anderson Foundation Gala approached, excitement rippled through the city. The guest list was elite, featuring some of the most powerful names in the Midwest's business and philanthropic communities. Behind the scenes, Evelyn worked tirelessly to polish every detail. This was her event, her moment, the chance to solidify her reputation, independent of Nathan Sterling. If ever there was a time to step out of his shadow, it was now. But fate had a twisted sense of timing. Just as Evelyn's new life in Chicago was soaring, a quiet yet consequential shift was happening in New York. Catherine Langford's world was shaken. Her father, Robert Langford, seriously ill, forcing the family to halt their high-profile philanthropic activities. With wedding plans suddenly derailed and the future uncertain, Catherine withdrew from the public eye, choosing to focus entirely on her father's care. Nathan did his best to support her. He canceled business trips, he shuttled between the hospital and the Langford estate, he maintained a strong outward optimism for Catherine's sake, but inwardly something gnawed at him, a creeping sense of helplessness, and perhaps beneath it all an even deeper question, one that he wasn't ready to face. Not yet. Nathan Sterling had never been good at waiting or dealing with unpredictability. These qualities often made him seem insensitive, driven by impulse, by action, by a need to do something rather than sit with discomfort. But for Catherine, he wanted to be different. He wanted to be patient, compassionate, unwavering. And yet, as he spent long nights by her father's hospital bedside, watching her world shift in ways neither of them had planned, he was forced to confront something he had spent years avoiding. His instinct when faced with emotional unrest had always been grand gestures, the public kiss, the extravagant engagement, the relentless pursuit of bigger deals, higher achievements, things that projected certainty even when he himself felt anything but. Now, away from the chaos of the tabloids and the constant motion of his business empire, he began to see how much he had relied on external validation. For the first time in a long time, Nathan found himself questioning what lay beneath it all. And then his assistant mentioned an upcoming gala in Chicago. The Anderson Foundation Gala, a major philanthropic event. An event rumored to be orchestrated by none other than Evelyn. Something about the idea of Evelyn thriving in a new city, building something of her own, struck a chord within him. He told himself it was curiosity, maybe even a sense of professional admiration. But deep down, he knew there was more to it than that. So he found himself scanning flights to Chicago. When Nathan brought up the idea of a brief trip to Chicago to explore philanthropic partnerships for Sterling Enterprises, Catherine barely reacted. "It's fine," she murmured, exhausted from the weight of her father's illness. "Dad's stable for now. If you think it could help with future charitable deals, go. Just come back soon." Under different circumstances, she might have questioned why Nathan suddenly cared so much about a charity gala in Chicago. But right now, her mind was consumed with far bigger concerns. And so, with her blessing, however distant it felt, Nathan set off for Chicago. Officially, his purpose was business. Unofficially, he didn't know what he was searching for. Maybe it was a chance to see Evelyn standing in a world where she was no longer in his shadow. Maybe he just wanted to congratulate her. Or maybe, though he wouldn't admit it to himself, he needed to understand why, even after everything, she still occupied space in his thoughts. Evelyn, completely unaware of Nathan's impending arrival, was deep in the final preparations for the Anderson Foundation Gala. If she had known he was coming, she might have tried to prevent the collision course that now loomed over her carefully rebuilt life. But fate rarely offers such warnings. The gala was set in Chicago's iconic Union Station, its grand hall transformed into a breathtaking ballroom. Soft lighting cast a golden glow over towering Corinthian columns, while elegant floral arrangements and shimmering drapery lent the space an air of quiet opulence. Journalists, local celebrities, philanthropic giants. The room buzzed with conversation, a celebration of the foundation's work in empowering women entrepreneurs. Evelyn arrived early, overseeing the final touches. She micromanaged the details, checking place cards, coordinating with event staff, ensuring that the PR interns handled media inquiries with precision. This was her event, her vision, and everything in the room bore her signature style, elegant yet purposeful, refined yet full of heart. She moved through the crowd with effortless confidence, a striking contrast to the woman who had once entered a different gala, in a different city, feeling like an outsider in a world that wasn't truly hers. Tonight, she belonged. Dressed in a sleek navy blue gown, a deliberate departure from the emerald green she had worn to the Langford Gala, she commanded the space, not as someone's ex-wife, not as a shadow of another's success, but as herself. Halfway through the evening, she checked her phone for updates on the documentary crew covering the event. Then, out of the corner of her eye, a familiar figure stepped through the entrance. The massive entrance doors of Union Station swung open, and there he was. Nathan Sterling. Evelyn's heart jolted. Why is he here? She hadn't received any prior notice of his attendance. There was no reason for him to be at this event. And yet, there he stood, dressed in a tailored dark suit, exuding the effortless confidence of a billionaire mogul. But something was different. Beneath the polished exterior, there was an unfamiliar weight in his expression, something subdued, something almost hesitant. Evelyn froze, torn between the instinct to approach and the urge to retreat. This gala was meant to be a symbol of her independence, her success. And yet, standing there, staring at the man who had once defined so much of her life, she felt the undeniable pull of history. Nathan, for his part, spotted her almost immediately. A flicker of emotion crossed his face, relief, maybe even guilt. He had told no one he was coming, not the event organizers, not even his own team. He had simply RSVP'd as a potential donor through Sterling Enterprises, no explanations given. But now, seeing Evelyn in her element, he realized he owed her one. Eventually, they found themselves standing near a grand floral arrangement, the soft glow of candlelight casting flickering shadows between them. "Hi," Nathan said, his voice softer than she expected. "I hope you don't mind me coming. I've heard about the incredible work the Anderson Foundation is doing, and I wanted to learn more." Evelyn forced a polite smile, keeping her voice steady. "You're always welcome to contribute," she said, "but you might have given me a heads up." Her tone was professional. Cool, but not hostile. "Don't let him rattle you." Nathan nodded, slipping his hands into his pockets. "You're right, I should have." He exhaled slowly, as if choosing his next words carefully. "Life's been complicated. But I heard you were leading PR for this, and I wanted to see how you were doing." His gaze swept across the room before settling back on her. "Because from where I'm standing, you're thriving." Despite herself, Evelyn felt a flicker of satisfaction. That he saw it, that he acknowledged it. "Thank you," she replied simply. Then, after a brief pause, she added, "Where's Catherine?" Nathan's expression faltered, his gaze lowering. "Her father's in the hospital," he admitted. "Stable now, but she's with him. We've postponed the wedding until he recovers." A fleeting sadness crossed his face. For a brief moment, Evelyn's defenses softened. "I'm sorry to hear that," she said gently. She knew all too well the feeling of pacing hospital corridors, the exhaustion of uncertainty. Before Nathan could respond, the gala's host stepped onto the stage, launching into a speech about the Foundation's mission. Applause rippled through the crowd, and the cameras began rolling. Taking the moment as an escape, Evelyn nodded subtly and excused herself, slipping back into her role. She left Nathan standing alone at the edge of the event, reflecting on just how much had changed. Once, they had been inseparable, co-hosting lavish parties, navigating the world together. Now, they were polite strangers. As the evening progressed, the atmosphere shifted. The speeches gave way to more relaxed mingling. Guests indulged in a gourmet buffet while the notes of a jazz quartet floated through the hall, adding an air of refinement to the night. Evelyn remained in motion, introducing potential donors to the Foundation's beneficiaries, slipping effortlessly between conversations. This was her space now. Then, laughter from a nearby group caught her attention. A cluster of women entrepreneurs stood in a small circle, sharing their success stories, their excitement palpable. And among them, standing with quiet attentiveness, was Nathan. He wasn't just making small talk. He was listening intently, nodding at the right moments, asking sharp, thoughtful questions about their businesses. Evelyn watched from a distance, remembering how incisive his mind had always been, how despite his flaws he had once been her greatest partner, able to pick up on details others overlooked, able to see the potential in people and ideas. Then, as if sensing her gaze, Nathan looked up. Their eyes met, and for a brief moment there was no crowd, no past, no tension, just recognition. Nathan offered a small smile. Evelyn hesitated before approaching, keeping her posture composed. The group greeted her warmly, showering her with praise for the event's success. Nathan, for once, didn't try to insert himself into the conversation. He simply stepped aside, allowing her to own the moment. When the crowd eventually dispersed, leaving them alone again, Nathan cleared his throat. "I spoke to a few entrepreneurs here," he said. "I'm interested in investing, maybe even matching some of the donations." His voice was steady, but there was something else beneath it. Something unspoken. "It's impressive, Evelyn. Everything you're doing." She felt a rush of something unexpected. Not nostalgia, not regret, but recognition. That after everything, after the heartbreak, after the distance, after the reinvention, she had finally become the person she was always meant to be. And for the first time, Nathan saw her, not as the woman who had once stood beside him, but as the woman who had moved beyond him. A swirl of pride mixed with something softer, something closer to sadness as Evelyn took in Nathan's words. "Thank you," she said, folding her arms. "My goal is to help these women find the support they never thought possible. The Anderson Foundation gave me full creative freedom, and it's rewarding to see results that aren't overshadowed by personal drama." Nathan flinched slightly, as though stung by the reminder of their past. "I'm genuinely happy for you," he said, his voice sincere. "You look completely in your element." Then, after a brief pause, he added, "And I'm sorry for the spectacle at the Langford Gala. Catherine and I, the pressure from the media got to us. I never meant to hurt you. Evelyn exhaled, steadying herself. I know, Nathan, but you have to understand, seeing something like that, a public display like that, only reinforced that our lives are completely separate now. I won't lie, it stung. But maybe it was necessary. Nathan studied her face, his expression shifting into something contemplative. Maybe so, he admitted quietly. For a moment, the sounds of the gala faded into the background, replaced by a hush between them. The weight of unspoken words hung in the air. Then, after a brief hesitation, Nathan gestured toward a quiet corridor leading to a gallery of vintage train memorabilia. How about we step away for a minute and talk? Evelyn hesitated, just for a moment, before nodding. They walked side by side, slipping past the occasional curious onlooker who recognized Nathan's sterling. The corridor was quieter, a space removed from the buzz of the event. Overhead lights cast a soft glow on polished marble floors, lending an unexpected intimacy to the moment. Nathan turned to face her, his expression thoughtful. Catherine is everything I need in a partner right now, he began, as though needing to clarify where he stood. But I still feel responsible for the pain I caused you. I keep asking myself if there was more I could have done, if we could have ended things with less hurt. Evelyn pressed her lips together, the memories of their final months together flashing in her mind. The distance, the arguments, the way things had unraveled too fast to salvage. I don't know, Nathan, she admitted. Sometimes things break, and no matter how much you try to fix them, the cracks remain. Our marriage was like that. But maybe we can both finally move on, without bitterness. Nathan exhaled slowly, then reached out, hesitantly, resting a hand on her arm for the briefest moment. I'd like that, he said quietly. The distant hum of the gala floated toward them, the smooth, jazzy notes of a saxophone adding a melodic backdrop to this fragile truce. And in that moment, Evelyn knew the weight of their past would always exist, but it no longer had to define her future. As the evening wound down, the gala proved to be an overwhelming success. Donors pledged millions of dollars to support female entrepreneurs, and Evelyn found herself fielding endless congratulations. Relief and pride radiated through her. She spotted Nathan deep in conversation with Janice Anderson, the foundation's director, discussing logistics for his potential donation match. The sight no longer filled her with anxiety, no longer made her question where she stood. Instead, she felt something close to gratitude. Grateful that the man who once overshadowed her could now, perhaps, become an ally in her new life. As the final guests trickled out, leaving only staff and a handful of lingering attendees, Evelyn stepped away to the quiet corridor where she and Nathan had spoken earlier. She leaned against the cool marble wall, collecting her thoughts. Moments later, as if drawn by the same need for closure, Nathan appeared. His tie was loosened, his posture more relaxed than before. I just finalized the donation with Janice, he said. I'll be matching every contribution made tonight up to a set amount. It's my way of supporting a cause that you built. Evelyn lifted her chin, eyes shining with gratitude. That will change so many lives, she said softly. Nathan nodded, stepping closer, but keeping a respectful distance. I'm leaving for New York tomorrow, he said. Catherine needs me, and her father's condition is still delicate. He hesitated for a second. Then added, I'd like to keep in touch with the foundation's work, maybe even support future projects. Evelyn studied him for a long moment before offering a small, knowing smile. That would be a good place to start. And for the first time in a long time, their conversation ended not with regret, but with understanding. A past acknowledged, a future unwritten, and the space in between, finally at peace. Nathan hesitated for a moment before speaking. Only if that's all right with you. Evelyn's heartbeat steadied as she met his gaze. Of course it's all right. This is bigger than both of us. She took a slow breath, grounding herself in the truth of that statement. This, the foundation, the work she was doing, the life she was building, wasn't about him. It never had been. As for me, she continued, I'm staying in Chicago for a while. I have other projects on the horizon, and the city feels like home now. Nathan's gaze flickered over her face, as though committing every detail to memory. I hope you find the happiness you deserve here. He paused, then added softly, we may not have parted on perfect terms, but I truly want the best for you. A lump formed in Evelyn's throat, a strange mixture of relief and lingering sadness settling in her chest. "And I want the best for you and Catherine." She smiled faintly, though there was something wistful in her expression. "Life doesn't always go the way we planned, but that doesn't mean we can't find our own way." They stood there in silence for a moment, the echoes of the gala fading into memory. No dramatic embrace, no confessions of undying love, just two people, once entangled in heartbreak, finally at peace with the choices that had led them here. The tension from the past, the public kiss, the headlines, the rumors, dissolved into something simpler, something honest. Finally, Nathan extended his hand. Evelyn hesitated for just a second before taking it. A brief handshake, a quiet goodbye that meant more than any grand gesture ever could. "Goodbye, Evelyn," he said softly. She gave him a gentle smile. "Goodbye, Nathan." And with that, they parted. Nathan disappeared down the corridor toward the exit, while Evelyn lingered a moment longer, exhaling a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Tomorrow she would wake up feeling lighter, freer, stronger in who she was, unburdened by the past. As she flicked off the last set of lights in the hall, the Chicago night stretched out before her, full of possibility. And this time she stepped forward into the unknown, without looking back. Sometimes the path to self-discovery leads us through heartache, scandal, and unexpected reunions. Nathan and Evelyn's journey, one of ambition, love, betrayal, and second chances, reminds us that letting go of the past is often the bravest choice of all. Nathan found solace in Catherine's unwavering support, realizing that public declarations could never heal private wounds, but genuine introspection could lead to real change. Evelyn forged her own independence, stepping beyond the shadows of her past to build something meaningful, something hers. She redefined success, not through wealth or status, but through purpose and self-worth. And in the end, both of them learned that sometimes the most powerful statement isn't in the words left unsaid. It's in the choice to move forward, on your own terms. If you were captivated by this emotional journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring you more stories of love, resilience, and the complexities of the human heart. Thank you for being part of this story, and always remember, sometimes letting go is where the real story begins.